Hello, welcome to Senior Haven Companion. In this video, we'll be talking about SCRIE initial application and how you go about filling that out. So here is the application, and I will provide a link in the description where you could do a download, whether you're doing it as a senior or a relative or a friend or someone is assisting you with this. So the first section I will have you follow as soon as I go through. So the first section, who can apply? So you have to be 62 or older. You live in and are on the lease of a rent control, rent regulated, or rent stabilized apartment. The combined income of everyone, it has to be less than 50, and you have to spend more than 1/3 of your combined household income on rent. So if you check all those boxes, continue watching. So you can mail this application after you're finished, or with the supporting documents, or there are other ways that I do it, but the address is provided here where you can do so. So I'm going to flip the camera so you could see up close how I do this. So as I mentioned, I wanted to give you an up close look of how this is done. You'll see the address that I spoke about. So the first section of the application would be the applicant, which is your information, right? So that would, I'm gonna put S S H C as the example for Senior Haven Companion. I am lefty, so I'm just gonna flip this to the side, turn it to the side, but you could see it properly. And I'm just gonna use a random date of birth, so I'm gonna use 5/11 19, let's say 45. And then for the initial application, you do have to put like a social. So I'm just gonna do a makeup one. Okay, and then we want to put our address. Happy Corner, NY 1, and we're gonna put the zip code. So I'm gonna use this as example 23, and then it's gonna ask how many rooms does your apartment have. You put how many rooms. I usually put like how many bedrooms, so I'll put 2. The telephone number 212-601-3333. Okay, and I'll put a random email address, tseniorhaven@gmail.com, right? It says, have you or your spouse applied for SCRIE in the past? So it's a basic question. It's either yes or no. Have you ever applied? Or you know, you put yes or no. So I'm gonna put no, I've never applied, right? So so in this section they'll ask about income sources, right? So you want to put or include every source of income that you're getting. So based on many clients that I've worked with, they're getting social security, retirement or disability, whatever that is. Some might be getting pensions as well. And I noticed that some do have IRA earnings. So those are all the boxes that could be checked. And if there's any other, you could put on this line. But it's pretty straightforward. And then you will put your total income from last year, the prior year, and you put it here. So let's say it's 38,000. Let's make that even. You could put this or you could leave it blank. They'll see all this information once you include your taxes that they ask for in the proof of income and so forth. And if you had no income last year, you'll check that box. And it says here, has anyone in your household ever served or are they currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces or National Guard? So you would put that here. Most of the time, no. So I put NA. The second sheet of the application, this section is very important as well. So as someone who have worked or have been an advocate for people who have done this application with, I would put my information here to support them. And let's say I put advocate. For you could put friend or family member or whoever, whatever the relationship is that you're filling out on behalf of this friend or family member. And then you would put like the name of where you would like that second letter to come, because the person that you put here, tenant representative information, you will also receive communication from them as well as the individual. So this is great to have two people receive just in case. And you just fill out your information there, and that's it. Once the SCRIE processes the application and you start receiving notices, this person would also get the same letter that the applicant is receiving, right? In section 3, it will say household members. So you want to include if there's anyone. So if there's no one, if you live alone, then it's much more simpler to complete the application. But let's say you live with an individual. So let's do this first. If you live alone, you would put like I usually draw a line through there for both spaces and put any, because there's no one living with the individual whenever I have those clients. If there's someone living in the household, you would put the person occupying the home with you, put their information here, date of birth, social security, and their relationship to you. And just like you had filled out, you put their income sources and whatever they ask here. So that's how that works. And yes. And now on to section 3. You want to select the apartment type. So make sure you know the apartment type. I could make another video on these. So if there are different types. If it's rent stabilized, it would be a person who gets a 1 or a 2-year lease. So you would select this and you check the lease term that you have, whether 1 or 2-year and so forth. It's pretty where you could read. And then rent control, if you select this, you would submit current year and prior year lease if applicable, right? And the maximum base rent. So your landlord would be able to provide all this information for you. And then rent regulated hotel or single room occupancy, it tells you if you have that. So you want to select the right type of apartment that you have. And in this section, it's just telling you or saying that you certify and you acknowledge that all the information provided in this application is correct to the best of your ability. And yeah, so the applicant would sign here and print and sign and date the application. And it says print name of power of attorney. If you don't have any power of attorney, you could leave this blank. No issue at all. It will not affect your application. Yeah. And the application is basically done, and these are basically requirements. So whenever I see clients, I would tell them that for the initial application, you do need to provide proof of your age. So you could use a government issued ID card or federal or state local document that pretty much shows your date of birth, if you want to use a birth certificate or passport. And also you will need proof of income. So they list all these things that you could use for proof of income: wages, salaries, tips, business income, rental income, IRA, all of these listed. But as I always tell my clients, right, it is always good to bring your tax document, because your tax document would have all these for the SCRIE, the Department of Finance, to review on their own. So they take whatever they want from it, right? So it solves everything. And then, of course, you will need to provide proof of rent. So anything that could prove that you pay rent. So maybe for any of the type of apartment that you chose, right? And it tells you here. So if you have leases, for example, rent stabilized, you want to submit your current and prior year leases. So if you're applying for 2024, you would provide 2022 lease and 2023. So current and prior year lease if you're applying for the year 2024, right? And This section here that says proof power of attorney is not, necessary. So if you have all of these and you completed your application and everything, and as well as your supporting documents, the proof of date of birth, the proof of income, the proof of residency, your prior and current year leases, and all this application asks. And don't forget to sign the application. That's very important. Signing is very important. Yes, very important. So don't forget that. And when it comes to the leases, when you submit the lease, please make sure that you and the landlord signature is showing. That is very important. If you and the landlord's signature is not binding, they will not process the application. They will request that you resend the document. I hope this video is helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.